Sunday, November 1st. 2 more months till the end of the year. You're watching the English newscast, and these are today's headlines. DEFA, a warm initiative, a coat drive allowing anyone to donate canned goods, coats, and others, takes place in Martyr Square until 6 p.m. this evening. Relatives of the Egypt plane crash victims arrive at an operations center in St. Petersburg in order to provide personal information and DNA samples to help identify the deceased. And President Recep Tayyip Erdogan votes in a snap poll in Turkey. He is going to admit the Turkish leader, hoping to bring a return to his single-party president. DEFA, a warm initiative allowing anyone to donate canned goods, quote, or anything that you are willing to give, is taking place today in Martyr Square. The coat drive started this morning at 10 a.m. and is running until 6 p.m. this evening. It goes out to Lebanese shelters as well as Syrian refugees, orphanage, and to those in need. The Social Affairs Ministry helped DEFA by providing them with a list that includes people from different backgrounds and religions. This is one of the first coat drives of the season. Last year, many refugees suffered, and some of the elderly passed because of harsh winter temperatures. Marinite Paycheck Bshara says that Lebanon is on the verge of collapse in light of the vacuum at the presidential post and the paralysis of the parliament and government. The Lebanese state, he says, has reached a stage that is close to a total collapse because of those who either directly or indirectly are responsible for the vacuum at the top post and for the last year and 6 months. He said this during his Sunday Mass in Kirki, and he went on to say that they have disrupted the work of parliament, paralyzed the cabinet, and drowned the country in garbage. Lebanon has been without a head of state since President Michel Sleiman's 6-year term ended in May of 2014. If the Syrian conflict causes Lebanon to collapse, Islamist militants would begin flocking to Europe. Those are the words of Foreign Minister Jabran Bassil, commending the army for its efforts to secure the border. A backwards reactionary terrorist ideology, he says, wants to bring us back to the past ages, and we will not go back. This thinking would wipe off Lebanon off the map. Bassil told a crowd of Free Patriotic Movement supporters in the southern city of Jizin a day after he participated in a conference in Vienna that brought together high-ranking officials from 19 countries to discuss solutions to the 4-year-and-a-half war in Syria. Bassil said he supported a unified democratic Syria where millions of refugees who fled the country could return to and live in peace. Relatives of the Egypt plane crash victims arrived at an operations center in St. Petersburg to provide personal information, and DNA samples to help identification of the deceased. The Russian airliner carrying 224 passengers crashed into a mountainous area of Egypt's Sinai Peninsula shortly after losing radar contact near cruising altitude, killing all aboard. The country's Ministry of Emergency said bodies would be brought to Russia within the next 24 hours. The Airbus A321, operated by Russian airline Kogalimevia under the brand name Metrojet, went down in central Sinai soon after daybreak. The militant group affiliated to the Islamic State in Egypt said in a statement it had brought down the plane in response to the Russian airstrikes that killed hundreds of Muslims on the Syrian land. So in response to that, Emirates Airlines says it has stopped flying over Egypt's Sinai Peninsula the day after the Russian passenger plane went down and lost all of the 224 people on board. Emirates is currently avoiding flying over the Sinai until more information is available, a spokesman of the Gulf carrier said. Air France and Lufthansa also announced that they would stop flying over the area as a precaution while the cause of the Russian crash is investigated. ISIS in Egypt said it downed the plane without saying how, but Russia's transport minister says the claim cannot be considered accurate, and an Egyptian security official said the plane did not crash because of an attack. However, a senior Egyptian air traffic control official said the pilot of the Airbus told him in their last communication that he had radio trouble. Islamic State group Jihad has seized a small town in Syria's central Homs province with help from local rebels and advanced on a majority of Christian villages. The Islamic State group easily took control of the village of Mahin, southeast of Homs, and 2 suicide attacks took place, according to Rami Abdurrahman, the director of the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Mahin lies 70 kilometers southeast of the government-controlled provincial capital of Homs and 35 kilometers east of the Syrian-Lebanese border. For the past 2 years, ceasefire between rebel factions in the town and regime troops at surrounding checkpoints had governed Mahin. He added that ISIS launched its assault from the nearby Christian village of Al-Qaraitin, which it seized in August. From Mahin, the jihadists pushed northeast toward the Christian majority village of Saddad and the nearby highway running next to the capital. Coming up next, U.S. President Barack Obama and Lady Michelle welcome trick-or-treaters at the White House. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan voted in a snap poll in which the Turkish leader is hoping will bring a return to the single-party rule he presided over for more than a decade. The outcome of the second parliamentary election this year will be important not only for Turkey's domestic stability and its role in resolving the conflict in Syria, as well as Europe's migration crisis, but also for Erdogan himself. Erdogan has made no secret of his ambition to create a presidential system, a constitutional change almost impossible unless his Islamist-rooted AK party regains the majority it lost in June's elections. Whatever the outcome, depolarization in Turkey between pious conservatives who champion Erdogan as a hero and Western-facing secularists suspicious of his authoritarianism and Islamist ideas is likely to remain. Gunmen killed 2 security officers in a separate drive-by shootings in the southern Yemeni city of Aden, where jihadists are becoming increasingly active, according to security officials. In the first incident, gunmen opened fire from a car at Major Mir Ali outside the building where he lives in the port city's Inma neighborhood. Gunman shot dead Abdul Wahad Ahmad of Aden's criminal investigation unit in a similar attack outside his home in Al Mansoura district. Meanwhile, a chief prosecutor of the neighboring province said he escaped an attempt to assassinate in a similar way in Aden. Now, such assassinations by unidentified gunmen in cars on motorbikes are common in Yemen, especially in the lawless south, and are usually attributed to Al-Qaeda, although it rarely claims responsibility for them. Democratic presidential candidates Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders addressed the issue of gun control on the campaign trail, with Clinton's vow to take on the gun lobby again, contrasting her forceful position on the hot-button issue to Sanders' more cautious approach. Take a look.
I am also advocating for common-sense gun safety measures. I think the path here is clear. I know it's difficult, but a majority of Americans and a majority of gun owners know this needs to be done. We need universal background checks. We need to close the gun show loophole. We need to have checks online so that people who can't buy a gun in person can't buy it online. And we need to close what's being called the Charleston loophole. Well, that disturbed young man who went and bought the gun that he used to kill those 9 worshipers at Mother Emanuel Church was not entitled to buy a gun. But they found that out right after he committed those murders. We've got to close that. I mean, why are you in such a hurry to buy not a hunting rifle, but a killing machine? And we also have to reverse the shield, the immunity shield that gun makers and sellers were given by the Congress.
I believe that there is a broad consensus, not of everybody, but of the vast majority of the American people, for sensible and important gun show legislation. Expanding the instant background check, doing away with the gun show loophole, banning weapons designed only to kill people, doing away with the straw man purchasing, increasing significantly mental health treatment for those who need it. So what I am saying is, instead of people on one side shouting at people on the other side, what about the radical idea of bringing people together to pass legislation which may not be supported by the NRA,